What's up, YouTube? Final video for the night. We are going to create a database on our LAMP server. We are logged into Php_myadmin. We have the database file right in front of us called music-database.sql. MySQL. We're going to put that in MySQL. That stands for MySQL. So we have the file right here. Basically, it will mimic Spotify. It's just gonna insert a bunch of songs that are not really that good. Someday I'd like to figure out how to put my good songs in there and then import those into this and use my own custom Spotify. I shouldn't say mine, but use an open source music CMS, and this is essentially what it is, what we're going to build. Right now we are building the music database. So let's go to import in the Php_myadmin. And we're going to browse the computer. I'm going to go to databases and select this file. We're going to leave the encoding the same. File format is already SQL, very good. Sometimes it's CSV or XML. SQL compatibility mode. We'll leave it. And let's see if it works. It did not work. So what's that mean? It means there's something wrong with albums. Alrighty then. Let's look at that error again and see what it says. So, database. Okay. Let's try it again. Oh, I know why. So let's create the database first. It might help. So let's go to databases, create database. Oh, we're gonna do this first. Now we should be able to import. It's been a while since I've done this. That looks better. So it's taking the time. It's going to upload all that data into the database. So what it's doing is populating each table with every row. And there we go. Beautiful. Okay. Very nice. I don't even want to like take it away from the screen because it looks so pretty. So that's it for the night. I stayed up a lot longer than I wanted to. The reason why is because I slept in quite a bit on Saturday morning, which I usually don't like to, but I did. So I got some decent Z's last night into this morning, so I'm doing all right. So we built a LAMP server on a Linux box. This is a physical server. It's not a virtual machine like we would typically do. I have had a Dell PowerEdge T110. I did actually install a Type 1 hypervisor using VMware ESXi version 5.5. That was the only version, the latest version I could install. Couldn't do 6.0 or higher due to the end of life for that hardware. So, bummer. That's okay. Like some of that is not, I shouldn't say end of life, I should say compatibility issues. I also tried installing Windows Server 2016 and 2019 with no luck. I even went to 2022 at first just to see what would happen. Obviously nothing. So I had to use 2012, which was cool, but I got rid of it and installed Ubuntu 20.04 and it worked awesome. So, I don't know, now maybe if I could probably go through and try installing 2016 to see if it would work, but I'm not going to worry about it. We did okay with VMware 5.5. We built a couple VMs, got the virtual networking set up, had storage, memory, and additional resources allocated to our clusters, to each cluster. So it worked out pretty good. Ultimately, I just didn't want to stick with 5.5. We'll demonstrate how powerful VMware is on newer hardware, and I'll show you how to set that up. That'll be pretty cool. So the one thing I did after installing Ubuntu was went in, flash a BIOS on the machine itself, and enabled virtualization under processor, and enabled the RAID controller. I'm pretty sure it was RAID 1 S100 for this machine. So we have 3 hard disk drives mounted in each bay, 500 gig hard drives if I'm not mistaken. Nothing fancy. It's going to do exactly what we needed to do. It will, so the purpose of RAID is failover, so if one disk goes bad, the next one will take its place. So think of an array of independent disks, which is pretty much what RAID stands for. So after we did all that fun stuff, we installed all the updates in Ubuntu. I'm sure I'm missing some, but I think most of it is up to date. Then we built a LAMP server. We set up Apache. We whitelisted the services in our firewall on Ubuntu with a sudo ufw allow command. We then installed MySQL. That is the database that will contain all the data that will interact with our front-end applications, like when you fill out forms, when you're logging in, so on and so forth, or updating your passwords. That is essentially how a website works. And then we installed the PHP, and that is the back-end programming language that is kind of telling what it to do behind the scenes. It can get a little confusing because we have PHP. Obviously, that's pre-processor hypertext. It's like HTML, only it's not. It's specifically for programming purposes on the back end. So when you go to log in with a username and password, that is PHP. If you go to change your password, that is PHP. If you are making changes, like if you're logged into Spotify and you are selecting what your favorite songs are or your favorites, PHP is directing that and explaining it what to do, and it's telling, okay, database, you need to update this row or this record. So there's so much more involved with that. HTML and CSS are the front end side of things, and the HTML is what you see here. You see this stuff. It's just this is just the header that is pulling from. Okay, so the CSS is embedded within, it's inline CSS, which is not an HTML5 standard practice these days. Usually you want to have your own styles.css that are pulling your styling into your web page. But that's okay. This is a default web page anyways. So, and as you can see, we changed it. So it's now saying, let me see, where is it? Tyler's page. So cool. So the last part that gets really confusing is JavaScript. JavaScript is the front end programming language that controls all the front end stuff. So like a slideshow, if you were to go to a web page and you saw a slideshow that was going through slides, that's JavaScript, because you're controlling the actions of that web page through that programming language. And you can use additional libraries like jQuery for inline imaging and pop-ups. No, I shouldn't say pop-ups, but JavaScript will be handling all the changes that you see on the website, whereas PHP, you're not going to see the changes. You're not even going to see the code. So just to give you an example of what JavaScript does, let me see if I can find a good example here. Okay, so let's go to this web page, click inspect, and we want to go to console, and let's say date.now, right? Okay, maybe this was a bad example. It should show the dates for now. All right, let's try this. There we go. So that's an example of JavaScript. So if you see a date displayed on a web page when you go navigate to it, that is most likely JavaScript behind the scenes. So it's pretty cool. We can do pop-ups, which are always fun to do. We can do maps. Pop-up alerts are always fun. So let's do window alert. So that is JavaScript for you folks. JavaScript is powerful. It's probably one of the most powerful languages out there right now, just because we're so heavily dependent on websites nowadays. And if it's not a website, it's an app. So, I mean, it's just really becoming essential. You kind of have to know JavaScript regardless of what your position is in IT. So we'll navigate JavaScript a little more down the road. When we build our first web application, we'll use HTML, CSS, JavaScript, MySQL, which is MySQL database, and PHP. Over and out.